So this is a video that I title Plotting and Planning in Chat Rooms. And I've had a series of dreams, I would say at least over the last 2 months. And they've been reoccurring dreams, very similar. And I usually have these dreams somewhere between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And they've become more and more frequent, I would say, becoming more and more frequent. And I'm going to tell you what the dream is. So, generally what the dream is. So I have a dream where there's about 10 to 12 people sitting in a circle. And there's a few ringleaders, but there's one very vocal ringleader. And in the dream, they keep on taking turns at coming up with schemes to basically harm me. And so that's really the gist of the dream. And so now I'm going to get into the meaning of what the dream is. So, and honestly, God told me that I didn't even need to do this. And I don't need to do anything. But really, the only reason I'm doing this is because I have hope for people to turn around, for people to change their life, to truly, truly accept Jesus, and to truly, deeply in their heart, make changes and change who they are. And so here's the meaning of the dream. So there's been a consistent group of people gathering in chat rooms, or in a chat room, late at night to scheme on ways they can do me harm. These are people that claim the name of Jesus and that you would normally see at any, a church service on any Sunday, singing songs, being in leadership, worship, all that stuff. And so, they've already schemed and plotted. This is real life. So whenever I have the dream, is a real life situation. So whenever they get together in this chat room, is when I actually get the dream, and I wake up as soon as I, they start going into doing whatever they're doing in the dream or into real life. Then I wake up, and so these people have already plotted on ways to unalive me, and they've been using witchcraft, voodoo, love spells, separation spells, and real life physical attempts to take my life. And more recently they're talking about kidnapping me, turning me into a sex slave, putting me into a psychiatric hospital, and then Baker acting me and abusing me there, or setting me up with false evidence, put me back and have me arrested, put me in prison. And they've also gone to a bunch of psychics that they understand that I'm coming into some money, that God will provide wealth for me in the future. And so in the physical, they're also trying to figure out ways that they can steal this money, basically inherit the money. And for them, it'll be the removal of wealth of the wicked, and in they think in a godly way, a wealth transfer to the godly. And I can assure you that this is not godly at all in any way. And to be honest with you, I've actually pleaded with God for these people's souls, for their lives, many times, and some in tears. I've actually cried for these people, to be honest with you, the ringleaders especially I'm talking about. And my prayer is that especially these ringleaders, have a Saul to Paul conversion, where they get converted. Saul was a murderer, and he was converted to Paul, and they have one of those type of conversions, because I think honestly they will never change unless they have some miraculous conversion by God. And it really surprised me, the person that was the ringleader, that was the most vocal ringleader. I'll say there's a couple, but there's one that's most vocal. And that God showed me in the dream of who it was. Now, I want to just say some information here, that this person that is the ringleader, this is real life, is that I had been in this person's ministry many years ago, and I had for many years been the second highest contributor at this person's church. So I gave more money than, except for one person, one family, than anybody else in the church. And I figure it was probably about $200,000 in tithes and extra contributions in the time I was there. And I helped build this person's campus ministry from scratch. It was just me, starting with just me. And probably share with thousands of people, maybe even tens of thousands of people. over the course of many years. And I even brought hundreds of people to church, like myself, driving myself. Some weeks it was like 8 to 10 people, where I bring to church. So, but this is the leader, the main leader that is basically the most vocal in trying to take me out. And this leader also loves gangster movies, so he's probably watched every gangster movie 20 times in real life. This is a real life situation. And you would have thought that this person actually would have some kind of gratitude for how much I've helped him in the ministry. Probably funded his retirement, this person's actual retirement. And I want to say as well that, this is that, when you have this way of thinking, that in real life, that his wife recently told him that she doesn't love him anymore. And I really believe it's honestly because of these violent tendencies that is what's going on. But this is a real life situation. That's from what God told me. And but there's a few ringleaders in this as well. And I sometimes even laugh because God tells me what their ridiculous schemes are. It's this is not going to work, and things the lies that were told about me. And so usually what happens is they basically have these they have these deeds of darkness that they do, these shameful, as Peter describes, I think it's Peter that describes in the Bible as they do their shameful deeds of darkness, and then they meet afterwards at like 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to scheme about what they're going to do to me. And then they meet up in a chat room, but God wakes me up every time they do it. And it's become more frequent. And so they make up stories as well and spread gossip to destroy me, all kinds of things that they don't want me to fulfill my destiny. And I want to share something else as well that, I had back in 2019 of December, I had another famous pastor that has millions of followers and all that stuff. I had what was called the fire of God, a prophetic dream. And this pastor had one as well. His was different than mine. Had different meaning to it than mine, but they were very similar. I guess the subject is a very similar subject and applicable to both. But as far as what the actual dream meant in his case versus mine was different. So basically, he had a dream in, I think this was March of 2020, that a fire tornado came in his bedroom. And it went around the 4-post of his bed, and it came straight at him. And, so that he basically described that prophetic dream that he had. It was it kills an experience, I guess, which I would agree with. And then eventually it crossed over into his body, and he shook uncontrollably. And he said it took the breath away from him. And he said the overwhelming characteristic of it was holiness, a majestic holiness, more greater or higher than than anything that's ever happened to him. And it said it sucked the air out of his lungs. It was, matter of fact, no negotiation, a download, basically, the way that God was speaking to him. And basically the overwhelming feeling that he got from the whole thing was that you never want to play around with things or God's church. You don't want to harm God's church. And so he wants to tell everybody, to warn everybody. And he said, basically God told him that you don't touch the church or you're dead. You touch the apple of his eye. And so he basically tells, his mission was to go out and tell people, don't have anything to do with hurting the church, or he will deal with you, and it won't be well with you. So this is his prophetic, I guess, he said it was a very powerful experience he had with God. And he says, you'll rue the day you touch these people. And then he said, basically, that was anybody who called themselves Christians. So he's saying the church overall, besides dead churches, he said it was an active church. And it wasn't just his church. And he said, leave his people alone, don't touch them. And then he said, whatever they are planning will fail hopelessly. But God loves his people. He loves his church. And then he said the words, the end is not yet. I am sifting my people. I'm separating wheat from the tares, the profane from what's holy, and the false from what's real. His bride is not ready for his coming. I love them so, but he's saying the words, I think it's of Jesus saying, I love them so much. But it's going to be a relief for many so that they can get them ready for his coming. And then the last part, he said he saw earth. He was sitting there and he saw a vision of earth, and there was a curtain, a veil that was covering, and he said the fear gripped the souls of men. And I want to say a couple things with this, because obviously I had a very similar dream, and you can look at it on my YouTube channel, but I don't have millions of followers and all that stuff, but it doesn't mean that my dream doesn't have meaning. And so I will say that there's two mistakes in his interpretation of this dream. The first one, he said that everyone that claimed the name of Jesus is his church. And I don't think that's true. I think honestly that, you have to be sanctified and repentant. You have to be a sanctified, repentant believer to be his true church. Now, obviously you have people that are lukewarm, that he's trying to get either to be cold or hot. Hot would mean that they're repenting of their sins and they're speaking of Jesus, testifying by their words. But it's a repentant, sanctified person that is a believer. Because obviously if you're not repentant, you're not hearing God correctly. You're hearing half, familiar spirits and half God, and you can't discern what's from God and what's not from God. So that would not include a lukewarm person or a backslider, but God can change those people to be hot. And the second mistake I think he made was that he interpreted when he said he saw the earth from above and there was a veil, a curtain covering, and fear gripped the souls of men. Now he interpreted this as a COVID pandemic. I call it a pandemic. It was a pandemic, not a pandemic. And that was the fear was that the world's being shut down, and I think this was a misunderstanding as well. And I think what this truly means, that when he saw the earth from above and there was a veil, the curtain covering, is that this clearly to me is the 3 days of darkness. So he's looking at the earth from above and there's going to be a veil. This veil is going to be removed. So there's going to be a combination of the spiritual and the physical. The spiritual is more powerful than the physical, but most people just think in the physical. You have a car, you drive to work, you have a house, you speak to people, but they don't see the spiritual. And so this veil is going to be removed over the earth, and it's going to be the physical and the spiritual. You're going to see at the same time. And that's what's going to grip the souls of men. Many people that have prophesied this have said that will it will grip them to the point of death, that some people will actually die of being in so much fear of what God is doing during this time of darkness. So those are the two mistakes he made. But I want to say this as well, that, and I don't say this, I honestly, this is for the people. The only reason I'm saying this is for people's education in the world, but as well to these, if there's 10 or 12 people getting in this group chat, I know those 2 or 3 top people are never going to change. They're not going to change. They're going to keep on going with their murderous ways, with their plots and schemes. But I'm speaking to the other 9 people that you can change. You don't have to do this anymore, and that you take caution. You understand what I'm actually telling you. You can look over this, whatever this church leader has said regarding this prophecy, and you'll understand exactly what I'm telling you is true, and it will happen. And so it's to turn away from your sin, to turn away and to not do these things, not go through these plans, because even this pastor's own words, because I can tell you right now, I don't have hidden sin, I don't have all kinds of things that I'm hiding. I don't. And God had given me that prophecy as well as the fire of God. You can look it up on my YouTube channel. That was December of 2019 that it happened. So I'm not threatening people. I'm just saying God sees everything you do. That's why he tells me when you're in meetings doing this stuff, after whatever you're doing at 10, 12, 2 o'clock in the morning, whoever you're sleeping with, whatever you're doing, and that you get together at these meetings to try to scheme how you can hurt me. And so I'm telling you right now that you need to turn from your ways. And I'm not angry at you. I'm not threatening you. All I'm saying is that God sees everything. And he's even telling me what you're doing. So you're not getting away with anything. But so I really, out of the sincerity of my heart, I want to help you to change so that you can truly live for Jesus and not live with this foolery that you're thinking is going to work. Because even in his own prophecy, he said it is not going to work. Everything will come to nothing. All your plans will come to nothing. And then you're in God's wrath on top of it. So I would not want God's wrath. I mean, some very bad things are going to happen to some people. So I'm just going to let you know. But obviously there's levels to this. And I want people, really, my whole heart is to help people to change so that they can have a right, true relationship with God, as in Deuteronomy, to be in good standing with Him, so that they can have the blessings and not the curses in their life. So I love everybody, honestly, and I pray for those people that have done me wrong many times. There's so many things I can talk about that have been done wrong in my life by people supposedly following Jesus. So this isn't a threat. This is just, for people to change their ways, to turn. So I hope this gives you thought, some very serious thought, whoever's in these meetings to try to lie on me, to try to put their mouth on me, to try to plan my murder, or to harm me. And what this person prophesied, this famous preacher with millions of people, is going to come true. I can guarantee you. So I hope you're on the right side of this one. I actually love all of you, even the people that really want to hurt me. So I pray for you. And thanks for listening.